There are tens of thousands of anecdotes of people who've done it,
yes,
confirmed by the optometrist, but it still is, I'm willing to accept somebody going, you're out there, right? I'm like, but it's better than the guys who say nothing can be done, we don't want to hear it. You know, I'm like, let's work towards better ideas. Like, I'll accept that I don't have the title, but we're seeing a lot of people reducing their dependence on these things, and we should be open-minded maybe in helping people.
Well, and they always say you have no evidence. I'm like, look, it may not be peer-reviewed scientific evidence, but anecdotal, when it's replicated, in your case, tens of thousands of times with all these people, that's evidence, whether you want to like it or not. And even like some of the things they did in the world of ketogenic research was, well, the researchers are the research is being paid by industry. I'm like, what research is not being paid by industry except the ones NIH funds? And so that's one. And then they're like, oh, you got published in a smaller journal that's not as the Journal of the American Medical Association or the American Society of Clinical Nutrition, the big boys. What's the big boy in the ophthalmology group?
Oh, I don't know. There's several that are pretty big. The problem is I have given up on, because I hired two guys that were writing a study for me. And then as we're getting closer into the process, I'm finding, number one, is that people already counter-arguing it, but it just becomes a debate. It's not the people that care about their eyesight. It's the people that care about the debate. And I'm not trying to convince those people, because they'll never be convinced, because they do exactly what you say. They find another study and then they go, here you go, right? Yeah. I'm trying to get the people that are stuck behind these things to look at ideas, right? Like to look at what's out there, look at what other people have tried, look at why this is not particularly dangerous or risky to play with, and then have an open mind and have a biohacking kind of experiment. Yeah. Those are the people I'm interested in.
Yes. Biohacking thing has caught on the last few years. You got people like Dave Asprey and Ben Greenfield, and I dabble in it. There's a lot of people out there really promoting it for a variety of reasons, mostly brain health, just general health. But I'm not seeing a lot of people talk about biohacking in the context of eye health. And so I'm glad to hear that you're kind of leading that charge. What are some of the things, biohacks, that people are using to try to improve eyesight?
So it's really easy to do. That's the thing. Like, it's generally the interest level isn't that high because there's a quick fix available, right? Like keto will have a measurable impact on your well-being and reduce pain and fix all kinds of potential issues. Whereas eyesight, you pop in contact lenses, you're good. So in general, there isn't really a strong motivation unless you're into sports, unless you need it for your job, you're a pilot, or unless you just don't like to be dependent on things. A lot of people are like, yeah, whatever. But fixing your eyes is shockingly simple. I mean, the main point of fixing your eyes were weaker glasses, slightly weaker glasses, just a little bit. So let your eye do the job, because your eye has a built-in mechanism to readjust itself. So if you introduce a tiny bit of blur, not to where you can't see and drive and recognize people, just a little bit, 3 or 4 months, that blur's gone. And then you reduce them a little bit again.
So, Jake, would that be because it's producing kind of a hormetic effect? It's a stressor on the body, but a good stressor that then the body goes, okay, we can correct that.
The eyeball is this fluid-filled ball of tissue. So it's never perfect, right? But just it can't be, because it has to be perfectly shaped. The light comes in through the front of the eye, through the lens, focuses on the retina and the back of the eye. So there's this ball, fluid filled, and it's never perfect. So it has a built-in mechanism to continue to always readjust itself all the time. Like, so what it does is it takes the light that hits the retina and goes, is the light perfectly focused on the retina? And when you wear slightly weaker glasses, you have some of that light not focusing perfectly, but a little bit in the front of the retina, just a little bit. And that's enough for that mechanism in the eye to go, I'm too long. So is the assumption. We don't know this. There's not enough scientific evidence, a study that the mechanism, absolutely, but that we don't have 200 people that wore weaker glasses for 5 years and we have before and after axial length measurements. But the strong assumption is that it's this mechanism that's most likely responsible for why is it that after 3 or 4 months that I'm wearing slightly weaker glasses, my vision's perfect again. right? The other possible explanations certainly, but that's our most likely working theory. And I've dealt with people who measured the axial length before and after and seen a reduction, but there's still enough debate where I'm like, I'm not putting my name on that as a certainty. But it appears it's that mechanism that works.
Have you guys tried the Paleo Valley beef sticks? These beef sticks are 100% grass-fed and grass-finished. And many of the grass-fed beef sticks on the market today are actually finished with grains. They use beef sourced from small domestic farms in the United States. They only use real organic spices to flavor the beef sticks versus all the conventional spices sprayed with pesticides and other natural flavors from GMO. They also ferment the sticks, which creates naturally occurring probiotics, all great for your gut health. And best of all, they taste amazing. Again, they're Paleo Valley, my favorite beef stick on the market today. Go check them out, you guys. PaleoValley.com. Use the coupon code Jimmy at checkout for 15% off your first order. Paleo Valley beef sticks.
And that sounds amazing. And I wonder, have you done any research into the role of like hormone control in conjunction with the weaker glasses to really speed up that process? I know anecdotally, a lot of people that listen to my podcast and follow my work, they go keto and it lowers their blood sugar and insulin levels. And it seems that that has a positive effect on eyesight, that people that were wearing glasses, getting worse and worse every year, getting more expensive prescriptions every year with the 3,000% markup, like you were talking about, just keep doing that. And then suddenly they go keto and they're like, wait, my eyesight didn't get worse this year. What happened? And that's not even using the weak glasses part yet. That's just nutrition changing them hormonally. So if you looked at any of the research that kind of combines that weaker glasses theory with like getting hormones normalized?
I always say the body's a system. We have this weird, a lot of people still have this weird idea that things are separate. Like your eyes are separate from how you the rest of you functions. Your diet is separate from all connected. If you have an insulin spike, your eyesight will be worse. If you start measuring your eyesight, you can really measure how far you can see before blur starts. You have a pizza and drink a big bottle of Coke, which your audience probably doesn't. But if you do, you're likely to be able to measure your eyesight having gotten worse during that insulin spike. Well, just as an example. So connected system, you know?
So what's going on there? Talk about what that is. When the insulin spikes and you start to get the blurry vision, what is that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So the thing is, there's so much to this topic that falls out of my range of expertise. My only focus has ever been, I was wearing -5 diopter glasses. I want to get rid of them. And eventually I figured it out. And then over the years, more and more people joined and more people tried stuff, and we refined a way, just an approach. Just if you want to get rid of those things, here's how you do it. And the longer I've been doing it, almost 20 years now, in a forum, people are having these in-depth discussions about things that you're talking about, hormone changes. Where I'm like, that is a whole nother planet, you know, of stuff that I don't have the bandwidth to deal with, just because my day's already, right? Like,
welcome to my world, brother. Welcome to my world. Because
I'm not embarrassed. I mean, I'm not embarrassed to admit that there's lots of things that I don't know, right? Like there's just,
I love staying focused on what you know, and you're not trying to go outside that scope. I talk about keto and it's got little ancillary things here and there, but then somebody goes into some medical condition and I'm like, I'm out. I don't have a medical degree.
And even like nutrition in general, like I've had great conversations with people that are heavily into nutrition, that have degrees in the stuff. They know so much stuff. I'm like, I respect that, and I will hand that part of the conversation over to you, because it's its own field, right? I'm fascinated, and when these things come up, and you can have vitamin deficiencies and mineral deficiencies that affect your eyesight, absolutely. You know, where I say get a blood panel, I make sure if there's deficiencies, address those.
Oh my gosh.
They're probably not only affecting your eyesight, they're affecting, all the bits.
Vitamin E, vitamin D, I mean, there's so many we could go down the list that directly impact your eyesight. So I love that you acknowledge the hormonal effect, the nutritional effect, the nutrient deficiency effects, because all of it matters, you guys. Like if you're working on your eyesight, it's not just a physical exercise that you do using the weaker glasses. It's a totality of a lot of different things. What's something surprising you've come across in your research that you're like, whoa, I didn't know that would have an effect, but it's had a profound effect on eyesight?
Lighting. Lighting is huge.
Yes.
Lighting is huge.
As I've got bright lights in my eyes while we're doing this.
Yo, wow. That is a setup. That is a
setup, brother.
Yeah, fluorescent lights, narrow spectrum lighting, just a lot of artificial lights. And again, measurable impact. Like you can measure the distance, how far you can see before there's blur. When you sit in a naturally lit room or in a shade outside, it's going to be noticeably better than weird artificial light. And fluorescent is terrible. You might be sitting in a bright environment and still be just blinking at stuff, not seeing clearly. Because just something about that light spectrum, something about the way that light affects your eyes, noticeably worse eyesight. And the more time you spend in that, the worse your vision apparently tends to be.
Crap. I'm doing 4 podcasts a week in front of these lights. So you're telling me
It's fine. That's fine. I'm saying all day. You know what I mean? Like if you work in the shopping mall and never see the daylight, that kind of thing.
Yes. And I have been in office settings where I'm under fluorescent lights all day with no windows. So I get it. So let's talk about the sun. So the sun could have some really profound healing properties to eye health, ostensibly because you're getting the vitamin D from the synthesis on the skin, ostensibly because you're getting calmer, and I guess a less stressed state could probably impact in a positive way your eyesight. Have you seen anything regarding sun exposure?
That also falls into, again, in one of those categories that are ancillary or related and have suspicions. We get so much less UV exposure than we should. You know, I mean, like you're behind a glass, even when you sit in your car, there's no UV, right? Like all the glass around you is filtering out all the UV. So much less exposure. I see curious, potentially coincidental things where people that have more natural light exposure seem to improve their eyesight faster. Yeah. But again, it's one of those topics that could become its own field. Right. I'm just like, that's interesting, but I don't even know how to engage that enough to give you a quantitative analysis of how the UV light affects your eye.
Here's the thing I love about podcasts and what we're doing here today. We're throwing out kind of theories about things that could be beneficial. The science isn't keeping up with all the theories. And so there's a lot of theories that just need proper funding, but there's not like, no eyeglass company is going to pay for this. NIH has no interest in this. It's very difficult when you're trying to fight a system of funding, unless you have some philanthropists that deal with myopia and want to do something productive for the world. It's just not going to get the funding. How is the funding, by the way, in your field?
The funding in my field is my pocket. That's the funding. For my stuff. But there was no conversation about myopia prevention for a very long time. There was no, and I've always said, I've always been a little cynical. I've said, wait till they're finding something that can be patented and sold at a significant profit, the conversation will come. Yes. And in the last several years, they've been developing products that do what I was talking about, the eyeball length adjustment. Yeah. And your eyeball grows longer when you wear minus glasses that give you clear distance vision, but they focus a little bit of the light behind the retina. Makes your eyeball grow longer, makes your nearsightedness worse. And now this has been known, right? And I've been told that I'm crazy, but it's been in the clinical science. Yeah. Now they're developing contact lenses that have little rings in them that they refocus some of the light in front of the retina for myopia prevention. And now all of a sudden they're citing the same stuff that I've been talking about forever, because now there's a patented product that you're going to spend thousands of dollars on, that they sell to your kids to prevent myopia. The same thing would happen, you just wear weaker glasses, but that makes no money, right? So they needed a product first, and now they're like, oh, we have a thing.
Yeah, I've got 2 examples of that in my field. So in the late 60s, Dr. Richard Bernstein was a medical doctor with type 1 diabetes, and he was trying to create an at-home being able to test your blood sugar. So he created a glucometer. But when he came out with it, everybody's, oh my God, that's horrible. That's not gonna. And now look, glucometers are so readily available.